All right, we are live with the Productivity Pit Stop. Hello and welcome, Achievers. I'm Machen MacDonald, your host and Productivity Pit Stop guru here. For those of you that may not know me or are new here, I'm a award-winning strategic business coach, mindset coach, #1 best-selling author, and founder of the Pro Brilliance Leadership Institute. My personal mission is to help small business owners bring their A game to their hero's journey so that they can win at business and in life. And the purpose of this broadcast is to provide you a break in the action with some great information, methodologies, and processes so you can activate your energy, get your mojo back, become more focused, and get back on the track of business and get some more wins out there on the field. The way we do it here at the Pit Stop is by interviewing top thought leaders, coaches, other successful entrepreneurs that can share best practices of what actually works in the game of business so that you can borrow the brilliance and put it into action. And remember, action leads to traction. We encourage you to play in the comments and questions as we go along. So if you see me kind of looking a little distracted, it just means I'm managing the chat so that we can get your questions answered. And that leads us to our guest, Chris Michel. Chris is a sales coach and also a fractional sales manager. He's been around the sales and sales management game for over 30 years. He's working on his first book, which is going to be a daily digest of inspirational passages for salespeople to keep them inspired and in the game. And welcome, Chris. Thanks for being on the show. I'm excited about this.
Thank you, Machen. I appreciate it and good to be here. I'm going to have to hire you as my media guy and marketing guy.
Why, you want less business? Is that what you were saying?
No. You've done a fantastic job of being the herald, if you will, before the parade comes through. So I love it. I appreciate all the kind words and everything. Thank you.
Perfect. I can see myself with the high knee step with the wand bouncing up and down. All right. So, we're here to talk about sales effectiveness, converting more sales, maybe even some lead generation and some processes. Let me ask you this, Chris, what's the one or two top things you find when people are coming to you? What are they struggling with in their sales process? What's something that, everybody can relate to that they need to do probably a little better job at?
And I think the first thing is they don't even have a process. And that's kind of alarming when you think about it. I've worked, like you said, I've been in sales for a very long time. And through my experience, what I find is that these top salespeople, they have a process in mind. They know how to work the process and they go from step 1 to step 2 to step 3. And they know how to go with the flow, right? Ask them to write it down. Mm-hmm. Ask them to put it on paper. And it's amazing to see what happens sometimes because they can't. They don't know how to communicate it. They do the aw shucks and they have a good time and they're fantastic at what they do, but they really struggle with that particular piece of it, right? So one is having a process, but two, it's really just having somebody on their side, a coach basically, to say, hey, don't forget to ask for the close. Don't forget to follow up. Don't forget to, and it's the things that we've learned all along the way. I say this and I may be shooting myself in the foot, but Machen, you probably understand this. There's nothing new under the sun.
Right.
Now, I have a twist on it that may be different than yours, right? But that's really what it's all about, right? We have to take all the things that we've learned over the years and we boil it down, we make it our own. And then once we do that, we can step forward and we can be our authentic selves. As the likes of Larry Levine and these guys talk about selling from the heart and stuff. Mm-hmm. It's really about just being the authentic you, right? So that's the thing that I find with a lot of folks is they don't know how, number one, to have a process, or if they don't have a process and they forget the basics. They just forget to implement day after day after day. And then, the other thing, this is one thing that I love. I enjoy role playing personally, mm-hmm. But it's interesting to watch salespeople when they go to do a role play, right? Because number one, they hate it. They hate practicing. They don't like the role play. And so what happens is
they want to sound canned.
Right. And so they fumble all over the place and they're just, I mean, you get these top salespeople that are phenomenal, right? They can talk and they're very eloquent. And I mean, they can say things, just riff, left and right, but you get them into a role play and they're all tongue twisted and they stumble all over themselves. And next thing you know, you're like, okay, we got some things to work on,
Yeah. Yeah. I remember when I started in the insurance world in sales, we had kind of an expert in the industry, Wayne Cotton. And one of his phrases that always lands for me, and it kind of reminds me of what you're saying, is ad-libbing is for amateurs, right? Yeah. It's like, being in front of a client is not the time to practice. Yeah. Time to practice is back in the office or, in your bathroom mirror, with a coach, with a colleague, getting it wrong, getting it out there, realizing you're not going to get annihilated if you say it wrong, and you get better and better, right?
Well, and that's the thing that I used to always tell the folks that I would work with, right? Any of the salespeople that I would work with, I'd say, listen, role playing is not beat up on you session. Okay. Mm-hmm. And I'm a fan of comedy. I actually got to do stand-up comedy once in my life. Yeah. And, but I went to different things and I love watching things like Whose Line Is It Anyway? Right. And it's an improv show. And the first rule of improv, and I tell this to people, the first rule of role playing is you always say yes. And so when you present something to me, I have to roll with it. If you say, hey, you know what? I really like those pink flamingos that you got sitting in the front yard. And I'm wondering, is there a way that I can get those? And my response needs to be yes. And you know what? You can buy them at such and such, right? And I may be making it up, but at the same time, it's just a role play. I'm not here to pink flamingos. What are you talking about? Why are you saying that? Right. And then we get into this confrontation and that doesn't help anybody. It's right. Yes. And right. And we help each other along the way. I'm not trying to snag you. I'm not trying to trip you up. I'm not trying to make you fail. I want you to get better. And the way to get better is by practice, like you were just talking about.
Yeah. It's just keeping that energy flowing, right? It's kind of the Aikido of moving things along, right? If we hit it, things stop, things freeze up. So it's right. Yes. And I love that for sure. What's, when going back to processes, one of the things that I've found, and I'd like your opinion on it, is by having a clear process of how the meeting's going to go or how the deliverable is going to go, and actually being able to share that process with the client so they kind of know where they are with everything. Now, I know that's a little different than having, the kind of sales process that we're operating from, but can you talk a little bit about, how you might be able to help a salesperson set up their own process as well as setting up how to communicate the process to the client?
Sure. Yeah. One of the things is we get better at sales. The best thing that we can do is give a timeline to your customer, to your client, right? Say, Machen, if we're going to do this, we're going to talk about this today. I'm going to discover all these things. I'm going to give you my best advice, my best, way of doing this, the best solution that we have to offer. Once we do that, the onboarding process, the installation process, the ... right? Your next step would be this, and this will take a couple of days or a couple of weeks, and then, blah, blah, blah. If you give them the step-by-step, right? If you give them a timeline, that's the huge, a lot of people don't realize this. When you take away the fear of the unknown, people will want to buy. Okay. And I think that was Jeb Blunt of the Sales Gravy, right? He talks about that, how if we take away the fear and we give people a process, we give them a timeline, we give them an onboarding, we give them something to look forward to, you've taken away the fear of, oh my gosh, now what do I do? Well, I just bought a laptop. Now what do I do? Right? I just bought this widget. Now what do I do? I just bought your service. Now what do we do?
Yeah.
And when we give them that process, when we give them the step-by-step, now it doesn't have to be exact, right? We can say, hey, it's going to take so many days to do this and so many days to do this and this and this. But if we understand that there's a process for them as much as there is for us, then they win too. And it makes it a whole lot more easy for them to buy, for them to purchase, for them to be a part of things, right? And so when we do that, it's really cool because you're giving them a vision. You're giving them a what this will look like.
Mm-hmm.
And it actually is really cool because then they can get their eyes and ears and heart around it, right? And they can own it. And then you start getting into the verbiage of, hey, Machen, when you do this, right? When you become a part of this, when you own this laptop, it will be, do this for you and this for you and this for you. And now your wording changes, right? And now you're starting to get them in on the ownership of it, right? You're getting them in on the being a part of whatever you're trying to do, right? You're getting them on your side.
Yeah. We got to create that picture for them to see them winning the game at the end of the game, right? And then we can work backwards and let them know, you are here, right? It's that map. They've got to know where they are, because if they don't know where they are, they're confused, and confused people don't buy, right?
That's correct.
Yeah. So what's something that you're finding you're telling a lot of your clients to do, right? It's like, hey, if you just do this one thing and you just double down on this, it'll make a world of difference, right? Don't starve at the barbecue. You can do this. What's that one thing?
Well, gosh, I wish there was one. With one client, I'll just share this real quick. So I had a client that, believe it or not, they weren't asking for the close, and they couldn't figure out why they weren't closing at the table, right? They weren't closing at the meeting, and they're doing these phenomenal, demos and doing all these things, and it's awesome, but they weren't even asking for the close, right? And so first thing, I sat in on a couple of presentations and I said, you never asked for the close. And they go, really? And I said, well, yeah. I was like, well, when would you like me to follow up? Okay. Then when did you set up the time to follow up? And they'd be like, well, for next week. I was like, wait a minute, it's Tuesday. Why didn't you ask for a follow-up this week? So it's just closing questions, right? And we get so caught up in the process. I had a conversation with somebody months ago, and it was really cool because the light bulb went off. So she was helping people, and she had to go through a process, right? And she had to go through a certain amount of steps, and she had the script that she had to do and all this stuff. And she got so caught up in doing the presentation that she forgot that there's actually somebody sitting in front of her. And so I said, you're talking yourself right out of a sale. Mm-hmm. You've got to stop talking and let them speak. Be okay with the silence.
Yeah.
And the light bulb went off for her. The next day she goes back into work. She does just that, right? She asks the question and she just stops talking and listens and goes, holy mackerel. Mm-hmm. It worked. Same thing with closing, right? And you got to start somewhere, right? So we start with, are you asking for the close at the end? But then we get into, are you asking closing questions along the way? So that when you get to the end, it's a done deal. And sometimes what you'll find is if you're asking closing questions along the way, when you get to the end, they go, well, when can we start? They're not even waiting for you. Right? Yeah, they're not even waiting for you to close them. They're going, hey, when can we do this? I want to start now, right? Because they're so excited about it. They're so interested in being a part of what you've talked about. Yeah. So closing questions along the way, be quiet, listen, stop talking so much. Don't talk yourself out of a sale. There's too many people I see that talk themselves right out of a sale. And then when you do follow-up, and we were talking about this earlier, is when you follow up with a purpose. Mm. Have a date in mind. If you're not following up daily, you need to, right? You should have enough of a pipeline that you can do some sort of follow-up every single day. Yep. And if you schedule a time and you say every day at 3:00, every day at 11:00, I'm going to follow up. Yeah. And so you follow up and then you put in, hey, I do follow-ups tomorrow at 11 and 3. Which one would be best for you? Mm-hmm. Because what happens too often, and Machen, you know this, right? We've been there. You go, hey, when's a good time for me to follow up? And they go, I don't know, just call me next week. And we leave it at, okay, I'll call you next week. And then what happens? You can't find them.
Crickets.
Yeah, you can't get them via email. You can't get them via text. You can't get them on the phone. There's no communication. You can't even stop by and see them because they're not there, right? So set a specific time. Set up for following up. Set those specifics and follow up with them, right? And do what you say you're going to do.
Yeah.
When you do those things, you'll be successful.
I find a lot of sales professionals suffer from follow-up failure. Or, a friend of mine says, don't F you the FU, foul up.
We'll call it follow-up, sure. Well, one of my favorite movie lines is from Up in the Air, when Anna Kendrick goes and she fires her first person, and she's this young person, and she's never done the process before, right? And the woman that she's sitting across from goes, oh, fine, I'll just go find the nearest bridge and I'll just jump off and blah, blah, blah. And she gets so mortified by this, she runs out of the building and she's outside and she's crying. And George Clooney comes outside and he goes, are you okay? Hey, don't worry about that. They always say that. And she goes, well, do you ever follow up with them? And he goes, oh no, nothing good can come from that. So I think as salespeople, we think that too often. We go, no, follow up. No, nothing good can come from that.
Yeah. It's the potential. There's a potential yes, right? With the let me think it over. It's like I don't want to screw that up. If I follow up,
Right.
they vaporize, and it's the opposite, right? It's people want to follow up, and I know just even as myself when gosh, and nowadays, especially with the world that we're in, I'm getting bombarded with salespeople with all these different ways to optimize this and optimize that. And it's like, I say, yeah, sure. Well, call me next week. And they never do.
Sure.
And so it's kind of fun to be on the other side watching, or experiencing the lack of follow-up, because it's the one thing that's so simple to do. You just put and like you said, the question while you're still there, the alternative close of, I do my follow-up on these days and these days, which is better, rather than, hey, I'll be in touch.
Yeah. Because being in touch is so it's a big word. I can't say it. It's full of ambiguity. There we go. But it's just it's so left out there in never land. And then what are you going to do with it? Right. You don't have a specific time. You don't have a specific date. Great. It's full of ambiguity. So all of a sudden, now what am I doing? Oh yeah, I'll get around to it eventually. Does it even go into your pipeline? Does it go into your pipeline as a follow-up? And if so, when do you put it in? Do you put it in next week and just go, whenever I get to it? I hope not.
Yeah.
But that's what we do. If we don't ask for a specific time and date, then it does. It goes into this bucket of never land.
Yep. Now you mentioned, your database or your CRM. What are some of the key tools that, especially somebody that may be new to sales, what are the 4 or 5 key tools that they need to have to make their life easier, to feel organized and productive?
Boy, somebody new to sales, and I had a similar conversation a few months ago with somebody, and they were like, hey, would you mind giving me some quick tips on, sales? And I said, sure. One, start getting your hands on any good sales book out there. And I mean, you can go with the classics, the Zig Ziglars, the John Maxwell's, the Napoleon Hills. You can go back to the Carnegies, right? I mean, you can go, you can go
influence people, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, what's really funny is I just read that like 2 years ago. I just read that, and so it's never too late to read a book to gain some knowledge. You should always be learning as a salesperson.
Yeah.
The day that you stop learning is the day you stop growing, and the day you become less effective.
Yeah.
There's always something that you can learn. 2, you've got to have a good, you just mentioned it, a good CRM. You've got to have some sort of tool, and it's not a piece of paper or a notebook. It's got to be a decent CRM. There's a lot of free ones that are out there and available. Mm-hmm. You've got the HubSpots of the world, you've got the Access of the world, right? I mean, you've got these CRMs that are available and they're free. So why not use them, right? And get used to it. Enter data all the time. So when you have a conversation, or find a way to track that, right? Using the tools that you have, but track that information. And once you do that, then you'll have tools that'll help you be successful. And find an accountability buddy, somebody that's going to hold you accountable. When I started in heating and air conditioning, a buddy of mine, Eric, and I, we used to call each other, and Wes was on there, and Chris was on there, right? Another Chris. But 3 of us or 4 of us we'd just call each other all the time after we finished a sales call. And we'd say, hey, Here's what I did. Here's what I saw. What do you think I should have done? I said this. Do you think I should have said something different? And then finally, a tool that I've found very useful is stop beating yourself up and use these two questions. One, when you finish your call, you get done, you go out to your vehicle, you shut down your computer, whatever, you get out of the call and you go, okay, what did I do right? I greeted them with a smile. And seriously, I greeted them with a smile. I shook their hand. And it could be the little things. Take the little victories. Don't neglect them. Take them.
Yep.
The second question is, what could I improve? What could I do better? Don't beat yourself up with, oh, I screwed this up and I screwed that up, because that's the first thing that people always want to attack, right? Oh, I messed this up. Hold on. Go back to the role playing. Yes, and what did I do right? What could I do better?
Yeah.
Right. And so when we do that, when we have that mentality, that mindset, and that accountability buddy or buddies, right, we can bounce things off of. And that's where a lot of my role playing came from. I'm back in the vehicle. I just got done with a call. Hey, Machen, had a quick question for you. I did this. I ran across this. Can we role play this real quick? And then we kind of bounce things back and forth. And it's like, okay, good. Yep, that's all right. Now I got it. And so you start to get your verbiage. You start to get the wording that you're looking for. And that's what makes us better, right?
Yep. Yeah, I refer to that as celebrate and calibrate, right? It's like,
nice.
What did we do good or well? And what do I need to do better? And, the thing that's interesting, somewhere between, diapers and getting our business cards printed, we forget how to celebrate, right? We forget okay, I did this well, I didn't throw up, whatever it might
right.
be,
Yeah.
But it's getting ourselves to acknowledge doing something good, and we'll start to develop an appetite for more of that. And then, calibrate. Okay, what could I do better next time? Can't go back. It's water under the bridge. Mm-hmm. But next time I can remember to set the next appointment. I can remember to ask for referrals. I can use an agenda. I can explain the process, right? Let me ask you this. Do you suggest an agenda of any kind with your people to bring along with them on their appointments?
So it's going to depend. I would say yes, but it needs to be very fluid, right? So we're always going to be changing, because in sales we learn how to adapt to the situation, right? You have to adapt to the consumer that you're dealing with. If you look at the DISC profile, right? High D, high I, high S, high C, you have to know, do I need to bring third-party information? Do I need to just get to the point? Do I need to build a relationship? Right? What are the things that I need to do? And so, yes, I got an outline, and that outline is, I do this, I do this, I do this, I go through this, I go through. It's your process, right? But that's your outline.
Yeah.
But that is a very fluid one, because, in HVAC, I always would walk in, introduce myself, we'd have a conversation, we talk about some things, and then I would go look at the equipment and bring the customer along. Sometimes they didn't want to go. Okay, that's an adaptation, right? So I move in a different direction, and I go and I do it by myself. And, I always had a process that I went through. It was indoor, then outdoor, the thermostat, that, asking questions and gathering all this information. Mm-hmm. And so, yes, you should have some sort of a process or outline that you follow, but it's got to be fluid, because you're going to have to be going with the flow, right? You're going to have to be kind of fluid enough to listen to what they're saying, so that you can adapt to what they're saying.
Right. Now, let me ask you this. When I introduced you, as a sales coach, and also as a fractional sales manager, right? Tell the audience a little bit about what that is, because I'm starting to hear that more and more. What exactly is that?
So we've gotten used to fractional managers, fractional C-suite, right? You've got a fractional CEO, a CFO, a CMO, right? And now you're starting to see more and more of these fractional sales managers or fractional HR, right? And all that really means is, if you were to hire a sales manager with 20 plus years of experience, that's going to be quite pricey, right? It's going to cost you quite a bit. In fact, it should be well over 6 figures if they're worth anything, right? Now, add bonuses, add benefits, add all these other things. Right now, we're quickly approaching numbers that we really don't want to talk about. But what I do as a fractional CFO or CMO, sales manager, gosh, I've got all these.
You give yourself a promotion,
right? I get to be a CFO and a CMO, and I don't know anything. But as a fractional person, I am used a fraction of the time.
Okay.
But you're getting similar results, right? You're getting the time and attention you need for your sales team. You're getting the time and attention you need to the metrics, the KPIs, the reporting, right? Just like you would for a fractional CFO. You may not need them on stage, if you will, at your company 24/7. But you go, you know what? 2 days a week, 1 day a week, I need you here in my office doing this, doing this, doing this. It doesn't mean that we don't work in the background. We do. I do work in the background all the time.
Yeah.
Right. But that's part of being a fractional sales manager or an outsourced sales manager. I can come in and work with your business and give you the attention and the time that you need and give you the results that you're looking for at a fraction of the cost.
Got it. Cool. Now, one of the things that we've talked about in the past, and I'm always just so intrigued by it, is the red chair experience. Yeah, look at that grin. Tell us a little bit about what right? Yeah, share that with us. What is that?
So it's sobering because I own a red chair. And if you want to read the full story, let me do this. If you want to read the full story, you can find it on my LinkedIn page. You can find it on my webpage, coachchrisconsulting.com. But I own a red chair. It's a red Lazy Boy recliner. Okay. And it was passed down to me by 2 previous owners, people that I love dearly and were influences in my life. My stepdad, who was my business mentor, and my younger brother, both of which are no longer with us. So I got to own the red chair by default, but that's my place that I go to read, to meditate, to ponder the day, right? To gather my thoughts and to write my book. And my book is called The Red Chair Experience, or The Red Chair Experiences. And it is something I'm working on right now. So I'm not an author yet. I'm a writer, but
you are an authority though.
I am an authority. Thank you.
And you're authentic.
Thank you. And I appreciate that. But yeah, that's what the red chair is. And the red chair experience, when I talk to people about it, it's where do you go? Where do you have your special time? Is it a mountaintop experience? I mean, and for some people, they live in an area where they can do that on a regular basis. There's a Kennesaw Mountain Battlefield that's not but probably 20 minutes away from me. I've been to the top of that. I've stood up there and pondered things as I overlook the city. It could be your backyard. It could be a stream. It could be, in the river, right? I mean, it could be whatever. But do you have that red chair that you can go and experience? And so for me, it's a place that I can go and do things. And I encourage people to do likewise. Go and be in that space. Find, who you are. Meditate. Again, we forget that too often we can't help others if we don't help ourselves. We try and fix other people too often, and we can't even fix ourselves. We're not happy. We're not in a good place. And I'm trying to figure out how to fix you. It's a distraction is all it is.
Yeah.
Helping you is a distraction.
Yeah. I love the representation of the place or the environment. When I coach my clients to write their business plans, I tell them, get out of the office, because all that is just all the distractions and the urgencies and the whatever, go to that inspiring place, because you're going to have different thoughts, with your feet in the sand or up on top of a mountain with the view or in the red chair than you will when you're hunkered down with piles of files staring at you, and pings, dings, and rings and other things going off. Right. So we've got to find that sacred place. Absolutely. That's huge.
Yeah, you've got to get out of the office. And I used to come to my office to try and do that kind of stuff. And then I was like, this doesn't make any sense. It's not working for me. And so when I got the red chair, I started to use it for that very reason. And it became an inspirational place for me to go and write.
Yeah.
And as you mentioned, my book is an inspirational daily devotional kind of book that is geared towards salespeople. And so it's not that anybody can enjoy it. Anybody can, but there are definitely sales tips in there as well. You'll see them.
Yeah.
But that should be done before the end of the year.
Awesome, man. Anything I can do to support you with that, let me know.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
So let me ask you this question, right? You're a fractional sales manager, a sales coach, and sometimes the word sales can mean different things to different people. How do you help your people that you're coaching and leading and managing really step into their power as a salesperson and not let it be something that they're maybe feeling a little shame around or whatever?
The biggest thing is, I think too often salespeople have to overcome this stigma that is the nasty, coffee stained, what do you call it? Cigarette breath, right? I mean, you're trying to overcome this plaid jacket, striped pants, used car salesman image, right? Yeah. And my buddy Harry Spate talks about that in his book, and I love that example. It's such a clear image, but too often salespeople have to overcome that, and there's way too many people that are caught up in that. Right. Yeah. And they think, oh, that's the way to go. And they read a book that talks about sales, and it's not about authenticity. It's not about being the genuine you. If you can be a genuine person and be honest and transparent, you can overcome all of those sales negativities that are sitting out, the stigmas that are sitting out there that people want to throw at you. Right. And, be careful, but joke about it, right? In sales, we learn that, hey, we can be the brunt of a joke. And if you can't take a joke, folks, you need to work on that. But in sales, there's nothing wrong with, putting it back on you and saying, yeah, I decided to do it. I gave in and I became a salesperson. Yeah. But have fun with it. It's not a horrible thing, and there are some really, really good salespeople out there that are concerned with helping people. And that's what sales is. Sales is about helping people. It's not about selling them something. If you're out there selling something to someone, you're doing it wrong. I'll just say it. Yeah. But if you're out there helping people buy things, you're doing it right. And keep doing what you're doing. Become the authentic you, and you'll find your purpose. You'll figure it out as a salesperson.
Yeah, just helping people solve problems. And if our product or service is that solution, that's great, right? One of the best definitions that I heard starting in my sales career that was really gave me peace, if you will, was that sales is nothing more than the transfer of enthusiasm, right? And if we're enthusiastic about what we offer, right? Like when I was in quote sale, and I still am in sales, right? I have to, influence people to hire me as a coach or a speaker. But when I was in sales in the insurance world, in the financial services, it's like, life insurance sales, people think, Ned Ryerson from Groundhog Day, right?
Ned?
And it's like,
Ned the Head Ryerson?
Right. And it's, but what he had even Ned had the enthusiasm because he believed in the product so much, and I think oftentimes when we can really get behind what our product or service does, how it helps people, if we had the cure for cancer, we probably wouldn't give a rip what people thought about us. Oh, he's a salesman. He sells the solution or cure for cancer. It's like, so what? I'm helping people, right?
Right.
And that's where we've got to get to, is just like you said, serving people.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, that's huge. And the sooner, and it's not just sales, but I know we're focused on sales, but that's true. If we can figure out how to help each other out, take care of yourself first, then you can help others. And when you do those things, you're not only you're more successful at what you do, you're going to be a better person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we're kind of coming up on the end here. What's one thing, if you get to tell all of the professionals out there, just here's the one thing, to help you be more productive, to feel better in this career that you've chosen, what would you say?
The one thing.
Yes.
Billy Crystal, right? The one thing. I think, and we just talked about it, is if you can figure out how to be authentic and be you, you're going to be a much better person. You're going to be much better off. I sleep very well at night. I've said this for years in sales. I sleep very well at night because I do my best to take care of people and help them out. That's why I sleep well. And I think it's true for anybody. If you're authentic and you're yourself, you're not trying to be something you're not. You're not trying to take advantage of people. You're not trying to hurt people. I think you're probably on the right path.
Yeah, I love that. When that brings a quote to mind by Judy Garland, right? She used to say, be a first-rate version of yourself rather than a second-rate version of someone else. And that's a piece that I find really interesting, especially with younger salespeople, is they'll try to be, the salesperson that's in the corner office, and it's not their style. And it's not authentic to them, and so they're just bumbling around. But what I find, and I'd be curious of your thought, is, our ideal clients want us in our authentic version of ourselves, right? They don't want us, being, what we judge to be better or different.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, I mean, when we figure these things out, we become better people, right?
Mm-hmm. So what do you imagine is the permission slip people need to just be themselves?
I think part of it is, and this was a hard thing for me to figure out. It took me a while to learn this, but it took figuring out who I was first, and by myself. Not my kids, not my spouse, not my significant other, not anything else, not my parents. It was me. Who am I? What do I want? And I think for a long time I got off on this tangent of, I think this is what I want, and I think this is who I should be, and I think that I should, right? And you start listening to all the voices of all the people around you, and even the ones inside your head. And you start doing things, and you start going a certain direction, and you realize this doesn't feel right. Something's not right. So sometimes we just have to stop, and we have to kind of recalibrate, right? And we have to look inside and go, wow, okay, let me readjust what I'm doing and get back to who it is. I'm not for everybody, nor are you, right? We're not for everybody. And because the sooner you realize that you're not for everybody, the better off you're going to be, number one. And number two, you're going to stop worrying about what everybody else thinks and says and does. There's a clientele out there that needs Coach Chris. There's a clientele out there that needs Coach Machen, right? That needs your specifics. And of the 300 million plus people living in the great United States, we're not even touching Canada, Mexico, and beyond, right? But if you can just find your niche and be you, you'll find your clients. In fact, they'll find you. Yeah. And that's the really cool part, is if you're just out there and being yourself, you'll find them and they'll find you. Yeah.
There's, a great image that comes to my mind when you say that, and it's be a lighthouse, right? And broadcast your light out onto the ocean for those ships that need your help, right? The big tanker that's out there that's got the GPS, it doesn't need the lighthouse necessarily.
Probably not. Yeah.
Right. And the smaller boats, hopefully they're in the harbor, maybe they don't need you. But those boats that need that for navigation, getting to where they're going, your light is the bright light that they need. And we stand still, right, and broadcast that. We don't run up and down the coast trying to get everybody, because that's just chaos, right?
Well, but we do that sometimes, though, right? I mean, we think that that's the way to go, and we start chasing these boats that are sitting out there, and they're going, "Why are you chasing me?
Right?
I don't need your help. Go away."
Right?
I'm like, no, really, you need me. No, you don't. No, I don't need your help.
Right.
Thank you.
Right. The sun's shining. I don't need you right now.
Right. I can see.
There's no storm.
I'm good.
Yeah. So, Chris, how can people find you? What's the best way for them to?
The best way for people to reach me? Well, the easiest is if you text, take out your phone and you text Coach Chris, all one word, to 21,000. That's the easiest way to reach me. You can also find me on my webpage. It's coachchrisconsulting.com.
Okay.
And I'm on LinkedIn. If you pull up my social media or my digital business card, you'll get all my social media applications, right? You'll find me on all of them, and you can even download my contact information there. So you'll have my cell phone, you'll have my email address, you'll have all of my contact, and you'll even have how to spell my name properly. It's amazing. It's really cool.
Did I get it right?
Yes, you did. Well, my last name can be tricky for some people, so. But yes, thank you. But that's the best way to reach me is text Coach Chris, all one word, to 21,000.
Perfect. So we just put 21,000 in the to section and then type Coach Chris in the text itself.
Yep. Yeah. So where you would normally put your phone number, right? The number of the person that you're trying to reach, you put in 21,000. And then the key on this one for me is if you put in Coach Chris, and it's got to be all one word, don't let it autocorrect to separating it, because if it does, you're going to get some guy named Pete and he's going to be wondering why in the world you're reaching out to him. But make sure it's all together. Coach Chris in the text box and hit enter. You'll get a link to my digital business card. You click on it, pulls up my digital business card. You'll know it's me because of the face. You'll know it's me because of the lack of hair. You'll know it's me because of the red chair. All of that is on my business card.
No hair and red chair.
No hair, red chair. There we go. We've got the new microscript. This is awesome.
All right, my friend, this has been awesome.
Yes.
For those of you that are watching and listening and even on the replay, take advantage of Coach Chris. He's got just a wealth of knowledge. He helps people get from this level to this level in their sales career. Does a great job. Don't want to starve at the barbecue. Take advantage of Coach Chris. Thanks, Chris, for being on the show.
Thank you, Machen. I really appreciate it.
All right, we'll see you on the other side.
Take care.
Bye now.